Welcome to Module 4, End of the Module Assessment. And this is going to be a review to show students the expectations for this assessment. Let's start with Problem A. And before we get started, let's read the directions. Multiply or divide. Draw a model to explain your thinking. So we're going to be using the rectangular fraction model today. So first thing I need to do is draw a rectangle. And here's our rectangle. That's going to represent our whole. And what we're going to do is label one side of this rectangle as 1/3, and we'll label the top as 1/4. Okay. Now, we need to represent 1/3, and the way we do that is simply to cut this rectangle up into thirds. And let's go ahead and just shade that in. That represents 1/3. And now I need to divide the rest of this up into fourths. There's a half. Oops, I guess I need to use a black. Here's 1/2. And here we have our fourths. Okay, now after dividing both 1/3 or our whole into 1/3 and fourths, we now have 12 pieces. But I still need to go ahead and shade in the 1/4. So let's go ahead and do that. And here we have it. Now, if you look at this, 1/3 of 1/4 is actually this right here, which is equal to 1/12. And that is actually how we represent a multiplication of 1/3 and 1/4 as a rectangular fraction model. Let's try it again. And we'll go ahead and go to problem B, which states 3/4 of 1/3. And another way to write 3/4 of 1/3 is 3/4 times 1/3. Let's go ahead and draw our rectangle. And let's go ahead and label our size. We have 3/4. And we have 1/3. All right, let's go ahead and divide our rectangle up into fourths. And I guess I need to shade that in. And let's go ahead and draw our thirds. And I need to also shade that in as well. Okay. And now we just simply have to write down what we see here, which is 3/12. You could reduce that if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Let's go ahead and go to the next problem, which is problem C. It says 3/4 times 3/5. Let's go ahead and draw a rectangle. And we need to label this. And let's go ahead and draw our fraction 3/4 and fill in 3/4. And of course we need to draw our fraction of 3/5. And of course we also need to shade that in as well. Here's 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. And we'll look at what we have here. And if we look at that, that is 9/20. And let's go ahead and go to the next problem. Now this problem, we will actually divide whole numbers by fractions. So let's go ahead, and this we'll do a tape diagram now. This will represent our 4. And let's go ahead and break these down into individual pieces. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're dividing it by 1/3. How many thirds will go into 4? Well, if we look at this, we can see that our first number has 3/3, and we keep going. There's another 3/3, another 3/3, and another 3/3. And we see that 1/3 will go into 4, a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. So the answer is 12. Now if we do the standard algorithm for dividing of fractions, we know that we invert the second number and multiply. So let's write 4, and we're going to invert our second number and multiply. So 1/3 actually inverts into 3/1. And if we go ahead and multiply that out, we can see that 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. And the answer is 12. Let's go ahead and go to the next problem. We have 5 divided by 1/4. Again, we're trying to find out how many times 1/4 can go into 5. And again, we'll draw ourselves another tape diagram. This will represent 5. Oops. And make that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have a total of 5, and we're going to divide each one of those up into fourths. So there's a half, and we have a fourth. So there's 4 fourths in 1, and we do that again to the rest of the numbers. And finally, we do our 5 fourths. Okay, so let's count these up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 So 5 divided by 1/4 is equal to 20. Again, if we do the standard algorithm, we invert our second number and multiply. If we invert 1/4, it now becomes 4 over 1. And we multiply it out, and we have 20 over 1, which is equal to 20. All right. And let's go to this problem. Now, instead of dividing a whole number by a fraction, we're going to take a fraction and divide it by a whole number. In this case, we're going to take 1/4 and we're going to divide it up into 5 more pieces, which means our fraction is going to get smaller. So let's go ahead and draw another tape diagram. This time we will represent, our tape diagram will represent one whole. Alright, and the reason we're doing that is so we can create our 1/4. So this is one whole, and now we have our fourths. Each one of these is a fourth. Now we're going to divide our fourths up into 5 pieces. Let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll do that with the rest of these. And there we have it. Let's find out how many pieces we have here. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 pieces. So our whole number has been divided up into 20ths. So if we take and divide it by 5, that is equal to 1/20th. And let's go ahead and try our standard algorithm. We have 1/4. We invert the second number, which is 5. We invert 5, it now becomes 1 over 5. And if we multiply that out, we will see that that is also equal to 1/20th. So that is the correct answer. All right. Let's go ahead and go to our next slide. And this says multiply or divide using any method. So let's go ahead and look at problem A. It says 1.5 times 32. So let's just do the standard algorithm. 1.5 times 32. All right. We have 2 times 5, which is 10. We carry the 1. Then we do 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3. And then we need to go ahead and add a 0 and continue multiplying. We have 3 times 5, which is 15. And we'll carry the 1. And then 3 times 1, which is 3, plus 1 is 4. So let's go ahead and add these up. All right, now let's look at our problem here. We have 1.5, so we have one number to the right of the decimal. That means we're going to have to place our decimal one place value over right here. So let's go ahead and do that. So our answer is equal to 48. Let's go to the next problem. It states 1.5 times 0 and 32 hundredths. Now if you look at that, it looks very similar to this problem over here, only our decimal is in a different place. So let's look at what happens when we do this. We have 1.5 times 0 and 32 hundredths. Now I left that leading 0 off. We don't need to have that on there. So let's just go ahead and multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 1, plus 1 is 3. And then we'll go ahead and add a 0. And then 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. And 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And again, we are left with the same answer, except now we need to place our decimal in a different place. Here we have one number to the right of the decimal, and here we have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So that means a total of 3 numbers to the right of the decimal. So we need to move our decimal from here, 1, 2, and 3. So we'll place our decimal right here. And of course I like to put a leading decimal after I'm done with that. So the answer here is 0 and 48 hundredths. If you want, you could go ahead and put 0 and 480 thousandths, but I prefer this answer versus the other. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next problem. And we're on problem C this time. Problem C states 12 divided by 0 and 3 hundredths. Now this is a fun way to multiply. What we do is we'll write our problem as a fraction. 12 divided by 0 and 3 hundredths. And this, now we can go ahead and get rid of our decimal by simply multiplying this number by 10 over, actually 100 over 100. And why did we multiply this number by 100 over 100? Well, essentially, 100 over 100 is equal to 1. And it's the multiplicative identity property of 1, which means that we'll get the same number. It just looks different. So let's go ahead and do that. 12 times 100 is equal to 1200. And 3 hundredths times 100 is equal to 3. And now we're left with the division problem of 1200 divided by 3. And if you do the problem, you'll see that the answer is equal to 400. So 12 divided by 0 and 3 hundredths is equal to 400. Let's go to the next problem. We have 1 and 2 tenths divided by 0 and 3 tenths. Again, we'll write this as a fraction. 1 and 2 tenths divided by 0 and 3 tenths. This time we can multiply by 10 over 10. So let's do that. 1.2 times 10 and 0.3 times 10, we get 12 divided by 3. And of course we know that 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. So the answer is 4. Let's go ahead and go to the next problem. And our next problem states 12.8 times 3/4. This will be fun. Let's go ahead and write that again as a, well, this time we're not dividing, we are multiplying. Well, in some ways we are dividing, but let's go ahead and write this problem out. 12.8 times 3 over 4. I'm going to go ahead and write that out like this. Now we have 12.8 times 3 over 4. And that is actually, we could actually factor out that 4. So let's do that. This 4 goes into itself one time. And then 4 will go into 12.8 3.2 times. Then all we have to do is multiply 3.2 times 3, and that will give us 6.9 or 9.6 over 1, which is equal to 9.6. Now, I did most of this in my head, but if you can actually multiply that out and see if that is true. So let's go ahead and go to the next problem. And it states 102.4 divided by 3.2. So again, let's write this problem as a fraction again. We have 102.4 divided by 3.2. And again, if we multiply both of these numbers by 10, we will see that we'll lose our decimal, and that is 100 or 1024 divided by 32. Let's go ahead and do the division problem. That's 1024 divided by 32. We can see that 32 goes into 102 3 times. 3 times 32 is 96. And if we subtract, we'll see that we'll have 6 left over. Bring down our 4. 32 goes into 64 2 times. 2 times 32 is 64. And we are done with that problem. So the answer is equal to 32. Let's go ahead and go to the next problem. And we have a chart that we need to write an equivalent expression with. So 1/5 the sum of 1/2 and 1/3. So we're just writing an expression that in number form. 1/5 the sum of means that we're going to multiply 1/5 times the sum of 1/2 and 1/3. So before we can multiply 1/5, we have to get a sum, and we're adding 1/2 and 1/3. All right. Next problem states 2 and 1/2 times the sum of. So let's write 2 and 1/2 times the sum of. Again, we have to do an addition problem. 9 and 12. Pretty simple. Next problem states 24 divided by 24 divided by the difference. This time we'll have to do a subtraction problem. And we are subtracting 1 and 1/2 and 3/4. And we are done with that problem.